along with me. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, so thank you all so much for joining. Let's start off with, if you remember any points from the previous two chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13 and 14, you can type it in the chat, even a single word. Anyone remembers any points from chapter 13 and chapter 14? What did you discuss in chapter 14? What was the main theme of discussion? Anyone wants to type it in the chat? Let's go ahead. The three modes of material nature. Very nice, very nice. So happy. Okay, so three modes of material nature. So that was the theme of chapter 14. Now, in chapter 15, so towards the end of chapter 14, Krishna actually told Arjun that if one who engages in a devotional service in bhakti yoga, then he can rise above the three modes of material nature. Right? And the 14th chapter, Krishna has compared these three modes to three different kinds of ropes or gunas. Guna actually means ropes. So we are actually tied by these different kinds of ropes, and one could be like an iron rope, one could be like a gold rope, and we have three different kinds of ropes, and the ropes are actually tying us. But when we engage in bhakti, we can get free, we can rise above the modes. Right? Now, how do we? So chapter 15 actually starts out with Krishna making the point, how do we actually understand what is this material world and what is the spiritual world, and how we can go from this material world into the spiritual world. Okay, so he starts off by explaining this with a very nice example, and we'll come to that example. But before going to the example, I want to mention one thing. So Krishna is actually making the point that one way to actually rise above the three modes of material nature is to actually engage in devotional service. And engaging in devotional service means developing our attachment to Krishna. We need to be attached to Krishna, right? And attachment to Krishna will come when we have detachment from this material world. Now, what does it mean to be detached from this material world? Does that mean that we give up our duties, we don't study? No. Detachment means we do our duties, but we are not attached to the results. We detach ourselves from the negative qualities that we have, like lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and so on. We want to detach ourselves from all these negative qualities. Now, I'll give you one nice story. Maybe you can relate to this nicely. So there were like two monks, okay, and like two monks in, like, how you must have seen a temple also, some brahmacharis, they wear saffron, right? Two monks. So they were actually walking and going from one place to another, and they come close to a river, right? The river was not very deep, and they could actually cross the river just by walking through it. But there was this lady who was there, and she actually approached the monks and said, like, oh, can you help me cross over this river? I cannot cross on my own. And one of the monks said, okay, sure. And though he was, like a monk who's like a brahmachari, is not supposed to touch a woman, but he actually helped that lady. He just like lifted that lady and then walked across the river, kept her on the other side, and then they just continued their journey. So monk A actually responded, and he actually took care of the lady in need, right? And then monk B was actually surprised that how did this monk actually touch a lady? They are actually celibates. They're not supposed to interact with women, And then he was just having that thought in his mind. And after 3 hours of traveling, then he turns to monk A and says, how can you touch a woman? Don't you realize we are a monk? We cannot touch women. And what was monk A's answer? Monk A actually said, I only touched the woman when she was in need to cross from one side of the river to other side. But you have been contacting that woman in your mind since that time till 3 hours after that. So Krishna is actually making the point that we develop that detachment in our mind. We may do our duties like how monk A did his duty, but he was not attached to anything. He was not attached to the object, or he had a complete mood of detachment. So he's actually, Krishna is teaching us how can we develop that kind of detachment even when we are actually doing our daily duties. Okay. So now let's come to what this chapter 15 actually cover. Right? Now we'll study chapter 15 in terms of this acronym called HOME. HOME. Right? So someone can type that in the chat. HOME. Okay. So what is HOME? Right? So now let's say that you're actually traveling to a particular place. Let's say you go to the beach or something, and you're just there for like 2 days, right, at the beach. Now you check into a hotel, right? You know you're there for 2 days. Now, if you're in the hotel, do you actually think that, okay, now I'm in the hotel and I don't like this furniture, so let me go change the bed, buy a brand new bed for the hotel room? You don't do that, right? And then you see a furniture and say, oh, this is not good. Let me just sell this furniture and buy a brand new furniture for the hotel room. Why would you do that? You know you're there only for 2 days, right? You wouldn't do that. You say, okay, whatever is there, I'm going to adjust with that situation because I know I'm here only for a temporary time. So similarly, Krishna is actually making the point that we are in this material world just like guests, but our real home is there in the spiritual world. So while we are here in this material world, whatever our karma is bringing us, whatever adjustments we have, we be satisfied with what we have, and we actually aim for going back home, which is actually our spiritual world. Okay, is that point okay? Okay, now here's a question for all of you. Have you ever seen a reflection of a tree, upside down reflection of a tree? Where? Someone can chat it on the type on the chat. Have you seen somewhere a tree which is like a reflection of a tree which is upside down, where the roots are up and the branches are going down? Okay, so if you have already you have experience of this, then anytime you see the reflection of a tree, right? Advait Chandra actually said near a lake, right? So if you see if a tree is on a bank of a lake or a pond, then if you see the reflection of a tree, then it is upside down, right? So next time, if you have not seen this, next time when you see any lake, and if you see a tree which is right on the banks of that lake or pond, you will see in the lake, you'll see the reflection of the tree upside down, right? And Krishna uses this example to actually compare the material world and the spiritual world. So first in our acronym HOME, what is H? H stands for home or hotel. Someone can type that in, right? H stands for home or hotel. Home refers to our real place. Where is our real home? Our real home is in the spiritual world. This material world is just like a hotel. We are here temporarily, but after that, we have to go back home, back to God. So, how can we actually live in this hotel in such a way that when we finish our time in this hotel, we are ready to go back home, back to God? Right? Now, why does Krishna compare the material world to a reflection? You who can say it? You can type in some words in the spiritual in the chat. Okay, Radhika and Rasika, is that
I wanted to say that the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world.
Yes. And why is the material world a reflection of the spiritual world?
Because the material world is like opposite.
Opposite, okay. Opposite, how?
Well, the spiritual world is happy, but the material world is sad.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The spiritual world is happy, material world is sad. Okay. So Krishna has already explained in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that in the material world is a place of dukkha. Dukkha means miseries. There are so many miseries in this material world. We are all actually looking for what? Happiness. But what is the nature of the happiness that we are looking for? If you read, maybe you have read in some novels, how does the novels actually end with? That it ends with, and then the hero and the heroine, they lived happily ever after, right? So you can type that in the chat. Happily ever after, right? So HEA, happily ever after. But have you experienced happily ever after in this material world? Any kind of happiness we see in this material world, it is temporary. It is always, it comes with some kind of, as there's happiness, there is distress. It is a duality in this material world. Just like you want something in this material world, right? So one, sadly ever after. Okay, one point is like, okay, you want to get something, and then you have a desire. Oh, I want to get this. I want to get this. Then four options that can happen in this material world. First thing, you don't get it, then you are frustrated, right? If you want an object and you don't get it, then you become frustrated. Second thing, you get the object, but you were expecting that, oh, this object would be so and so, it will give me so much happiness, but you don't get that level of happiness. Normally, if you see in a material world, our expectations always exceed the reality, right? Expectations, you can type that in. Expectations exceed the reality. So second point is you get the object, but it does not satisfy you. Now, third point is, yes, there is some satisfaction. You get the object, there is some satisfaction, but it is very short. It comes, and then after some time, you feel like, oh, now I am bored of this object. Now I want some other object. So it's just temporary. And the fourth one is the happiness comes with distress. So you get the object, but when you're trying to enjoy it, there is some other conditions associated with that. So if you see happiness in this material world, it is bound by these four conditions. Either you don't get it, you get it, you're not satisfied, you're satisfied, but it's temporary, and then also that happiness is associated with some kind of distress. So that is the nature of this material world. It's just like this. Okay, how many of you like pizza and ice cream? Okay, I see. Some of them turn on your video cameras. Yes, everyone likes pizza and ice cream. But now, instead of actually giving you pizza and ice cream, I just show you a nice photo of pizza and ice cream. I say, here, everyone on Zoom, please see. There's a nice pizza and a nice ice cream, a nice photo. Will you be satisfied? No way. Like, where is the real pizza? Where is the real ice cream? Similarly, this material world, actually in this material world, we are programmed to think in such a way. Okay, I'll tell you another story. Okay. So there was a circus. Right? How many of you have been to a circus? No? Okay. Anyway, just think about it. So there was a circus that came into town, right? And the circus had a condition that it was just like one tent, right? And it had only one entrance door and one exit door. And they said, we will let people come in, but only one person at a time. So people were very eager, like, oh, circus has come into town. It's going to be wonderful. Let's go. And people formed big lines. They were standing for the whole night. They were actually in the line, hoping that when the circus actually opens, then we can actually go in and we'll enjoy. So there was a long line and people paid a lot to get inside. And then the first person went inside. But when he actually went inside, what to talk of like showing some magic? He was actually beaten by the circus people. And he was like, I was waiting so long for this. And now I come inside, and people are actually beating me. But then when he went outside, everyone else in the line was like looking at him. Oh, what is he going to say? Maybe he had something really nice. And he was thinking that if I come out and tell them that I got beaten up, then they'll think I'm a fool. You know. So maybe I'll just tell them, oh, it was very nice, and you go, you'll also like it a lot. So he came out, and everyone else was looking at him. What is happening? What is happening? And then he said, oh, it is wonderful. You go in, you'll enjoy it. It's worth standing in line. Because he didn't want to appear like a fool, and he didn't want to appear that I stood for so long and now I'm cheated. Right? And then he came out and he told, yes, very nice. Second person went in. Even he got beaten up. And when he came out, I was thinking, wow, first person enjoyed. Now, if I tell them that I was beaten up, then they will think I am a fool. So even he said, oh, yes, yes, very nice. You go, you'll enjoy. And then what is this? And everyone was doing the same thing. So what is the moral of this story? This is the material world is programming us in such a way that even though our experience may be sad, it may not be good, but to portray to the world, we have to say, oh, yes, yes, I am doing very nice. Everything is good. Like you go to a hospital and the doctor asks you, how are you doing? Oh, yes, yes, I am good. Why are you in the hospital if you are good? Right? So we actually make a false image of ourselves, whether that is on Instagram or Facebook. We show everything is very happy. But internally, we may be having so many problems. So the point here is that we should not live a life just to portray an image to someone that, oh, yes, I'm happy. Be true to who you really are and try to search out that inner happiness that we are actually looking for. That real desire that is there in everyone's heart. And what is that real desire? To go back home, back to mother. To actually enjoy happily ever after. Everyone has that desire. So how can we live a life in such a way that we can actually attain that desire of living happily ever after? Okay, so the first acronym, H, stands for home or hotel, right? So we should understand the hotel is not a place to actually make a permanent situation here. Hotel is a transitory point where we can actually make arrangements so we can reach back home properly. So similarly, this material world is like a reflection. You know, the aspiration for happiness is there, but that will be there only in the spiritual world. Okay? So we should all aspire to go back home to the spiritual world. Now, how can we go back home to the spiritual world? Okay. So Krishna actually points out, he gives a very nice verse. The fifth verse of the 15th chapter, Krishna actually says, Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvar vimukta sukha dukkha sanga gachanti amuda padam avyayam tat. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Can see this verse is a very nice verse, and this actually Krishna is telling us how we can go back to the spiritual world. Yeah, okay, let me share my screen. Okay, you can see my screen? Yes, okay. So you see this. This is the sundering process. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha. Means what? This is Krishna is telling how can we go from the material world to the spiritual world. First thing that we have to give up is a false prestige and illusion. Right? False prestige, illusion. Jita sanga dosha. We have to give up bad association. Right? See, we are trying to conquer the disease of lust, anger, greed, envy, and so on. Now, if we are always associating with people who are encouraging lust, anger, greed, sinful activities, then how can we expect to go back home, back to Godhead? So first thing, we have to become free from false prestige, from illusion, and give up bad association. Those are the three do nots, right? Not to do, right? So we have to give up these three. Then what is the positive? One have to adhyatma nitya. We have to understand what is the spiritual world. What is the real aspiration of my heart, right? And when we actually understand that, then we will develop a desire to go back home to the spiritual world. Then it says vinimritta kama, we have to give up our material lusty desire, right? And then dvandva vimukta sukha dukkha samaya. We have to be freed from dualities of happiness and distress. What does this mean? That happiness and distress will come in this world, but we should not be disturbed by those things, and we should continue our duty without being disturbed by happiness and distress. Gachanti amuda padam abhayam tat. So those who are actually have these qualities and they know how to surrender unto Krishna, they will actually attain the spiritual world. Okay, so this is the formula Krishna gives, how we can actually give up the material world and go back to the spiritual world. So can someone type in the chat, what are the few points that Krishna is actually telling in this verse? What do we have to give up and what do we have to be attached to? So what is a do not and what is a do's we have to do? Can someone type in the chat? Okay, give up false prestige, very nice. What else? Give up bad material attachments, give up illusion, not doing material things, bad association. Okay, and what is the positive we have to do? Understand the eternal. We have to understand what is the spiritual world. Because if you do not know what is the spiritual world, why will you aspire to go back? Right? We have to develop that desire to go back. So you can write the positive is to understand the eternal, understand the spiritual world. Right? And then also the positive, Krishna is saying, Gachanti amuda padam avyayam tad. We have to surrender unto Krishna, know how to surrender unto Krishna, understand this world. So this is a secret Krishna is giving, how we can go from the material world to the spiritual world. Okay. So now Krishna talks about, okay, what about the spiritual world? Can you tell me something about the spiritual world? So Krishna here in text number 6, he says, Na tad bhasyate surya, na shashanko na pavaka, yad gatva na nivartante, tad dhama paramamama. He says, in the material world, if you see, material world is a world of ignorance. If there is no sunshine, then there is darkness. We are dependent on the sun to actually give us light. We are dependent on tube light or any kind of bulb to give us light. Otherwise, this material world is a place of darkness. But the spiritual world, it is not. There is no sun, there's no moon, there is no fire, there's no electricity. Yet it is always effulgent, it is always bright, it is always full of knowledge. It is full of happiness, full of knowledge, and it is actually eternal. And Krishna is saying, one who reaches to the material world, one who actually goes back to the spiritual world, he never has to return back to this material world. Okay. So that is the first H. So first acronym is okay. Home, we are discussing H. So hotel or home, and we are actually discussing how we can actually move from the material world and enter into the spiritual world. And we learned also something more about the spiritual world. Okay. Any questions up to this point? Okay, very nice. So we'll go to the second. So after H, we are going to O. What is O? O stands for over and over. Okay. So what is over and over? Krishna actually next explains that our existence in this material world is like a journey where we actually go over and over and over and over again. What are we going through? Birth, old age, disease, death. And then what happens at the time of death? That is what Krishna is actually explaining in this material world. And he actually says, in this material world, He actually says that we change our bodies based upon our desires we carry from one lifetime to another. So based on our desires, based on also what we deserve. So both what we desire and what we deserve. Like an example, at the time of that, we already discussed in the 8th chapter. Whatever we think of, that's our next destination. And what are we going to think about? What is the strongest desires we have? Right? But if someone desires that I'll become the king next life, but if he does not have good karma, that desire will not be fulfilled immediately. So both based on our desire and what we deserve, we are changing bodies from 8.4 million species of life. There are 8.4 million species of life, and we are actually going through this different species of life again and again and again, over and over and over again. But what is our real position? So in the 15th chapter, Krishna very clearly says, was one of the very important verses of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, what is our real position? And he actually says, Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Right? So you see here. So Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke, each one of us, we are who? We are actually direct path and parcel of Krishna. This is the place in the Gita where Krishna is clearly telling us, right, that every one of us, as spirit soul, we are all parts and parcels of Krishna. We are an amsha of Krishna. And in that way, if Krishna is all eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, even we have that quality of Satchit and Ananda. Even we have the quality. But right now, the quality is covered. What they say, Mana Shastrani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. Because of our conditioned life, we are struggling very hard in this material nature with the 6 senses that actually include the mind. Right? So the mind and the senses. Because of the pullings of the mind and senses, we see this and like, oh, if I do this, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll be happy. And then we say, oh, just to show to the outside world how I'm so happy, I will do this and post photos on Facebook and Instagram. People will think, I am very happy. Right? But Krishna is clearly saying, Mana Shastrani Indriyani, with the 6 senses, that includes the mind. We are all Karshati. Karshati means we are all struggling in this material nature. This material nature is a place of struggle. But each one of us, who are we? We are eternal parts and parcels of Krishna. We have a direct relationship with Krishna, and the only way we can be happy is when we actually reconnect with that relationship with Krishna. Okay, so that's the second acronym, O, right? Because of the mind, the desires that are stored in the mind, we actually change from one life to another, and in that way we are struggling in this material world. Okay, now third acronym. What is the third acronym? M, right? M means what? Maintainer. Krishna is actually saying that yes, we are part and parcel of Krishna, but Krishna is actually maintaining us at 3 different levels. Right? So what are the 3 levels? Krishna is maintaining us. Someone can type this. Krishna is maintaining us at cosmic level, at the personal level, and at the spiritual level. Okay. So what does this mean? So if you see in text number 12 and 13, Krishna is actually saying, you see, Krishna is our maintainer at the cosmic level. What does it mean? What does it mean? Ajay Chandra, yes. That's some kind of echo. You can type it in the chat if the voice is not clear. Okay. Hare Krishna. Can you mute it? Yeah, Hare Krishna. So you can post your question in the chat if it's not clear, right? So Krishna is maintaining us at the cosmic level, What does it mean at the cosmic level? Krishna is saying, I am actually the source of the light of the sun, moon, and fire. Like if there is no sun, can we live in this material world? Is it possible? No. Only darkness. And from the sun, there is actually fire. And through fire, we have electricity, everything, all the machines are actually working on this fire principle, on the energy principle. So if Krishna is maintaining us by providing us the light of the sun, the moon, the fire, and that way he's actually dissipating the darkness in this world. Then Krishna is saying, I actually enter into each planet. How are all the planets floating in the space? Krishna is saying, actually, I am doing that, right? And also Krishna says, I become the moonlight. I enter into each vegetable and nourish the vegetables. If you don't know this, the vegetables that grow from the ground, it is the moonshine that actually nourish these vegetables. And Krishna is saying, I am actually nourishing all these vegetables and plants. So Krishna is maintaining us at the cosmic level. How does he maintain us at the personal level? Krishna says, I am the fire of digestion. Can you digest your food if you do not have fire in your stomach? No, right? So it is actually in the stomach, there are these acids, which is actually like fire. And when the food actually enters into the stomach, it is this acid that burns the food and then it converts it into energy that's supplied all through the body. Krishna is saying, I am that fire of digestion. Right? And Krishna is saying that I join the, there's the prana, the incoming and the outgoing breath. Krishna is saying, I am actually pranapana samayukta. I join with that air of life. So I'm maintaining you by that breath process. In the third aspect, Krishna says, I help digest the 4 kinds of food stuff. What are the 4 kinds of food stuff? And it's right there on the screen. But if you are not seeing the screen, then you can type in it. What are the 4 kinds of food stuff? Pizza, ice cream. Is that? What are the 4 kinds of food stuff? So Krishna says one that is chewed, one that is sipped, one that is licked, and one that is sucked. So Krishna is saying, I am digesting all these 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Right? So Krishna is helping us at a personal level. He is maintaining us. Without the fire of digestion, without our incoming and outgoing breath, can we survive? We cannot survive. So Krishna is the one who is actually maintaining us at a personal level. And then Krishna, there's another very important verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaisya sarver aham eva vedyo vedantrakit veda videva cha. Like Krishna is saying, I am seated in everyone's heart. Is Krishna in our heart? Yes, Krishna is in our heart as the Paramatma. And what is he doing? Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna is actually giving us a remembrance. He's giving us knowledge and he's also giving us forgetfulness. So what does this mean? Krishna is giving us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So we all actually, we change our bodies. We have some previous body and then we take this current body. But now in this current body, do I actually know what are my past desires? It is there within, but Krishna is the one who is actually making us act in such a way that we can actually, he gives us that remembrance of our past desires so that we can try to fulfill that. It is Krishna who is giving us a knowledge of how all these desires may be fulfilled. And it is Krishna who is actually giving us forgetfulness. Why forgetfulness? Because if we are born in a particular body, and if we remember our past 50 births, we will be so confused. We'll be like, I am that person or I am this person right here. So Krishna gives that forgetfulness also. So in that way, Krishna is maintaining us. He's sitting in the heart as Paramatma. He is the one who's giving us knowledge. He is the one who gives us remembrance, and he is the one who gives us forgetfulness. Right? And then the next 2 lines is also very important verse. So the 2 most important verses in 15th chapter is 15.7, where Krishna has said that how we are all part and parcel of Krishna, and 15.15, where Krishna says he's seated in the heart of every living entity. And then Krishna also says Vedesya sarver aham eva vedyo vedantakrit veda videva chahami. What is the essence of all the Vedas? Who can say? Please type it in the chat. Vedesya sarver aham eva vedyo. So Krishna is saying, by all the Vedas, who is to be known? Krishna is to be known because he is the supreme. He is the source of all the Vedas. Krishna says, Vedanta Krit Veda Videva Chaham. I am the compiler of the Vedas. I am the knower of the Vedas. And the entire goal of the Vedas is finally to know who Krishna is. So if you know who Krishna is, right, what is our relationship with Krishna? Then you know the entire Vedas. Nothing further is needed for you to know. Right? So everyone understands how Krishna is maintaining us at 3 different levels. Can you type in what are the 3 different levels? So first one is what? At the cosmic level. How does he maintain us cosmic level? Okay, cosmic, okay. And what is the second one? Personal level, like he becomes a digestive food, right? Cosmic level is actually he maintains us through the sunshine, right? And then third one is spiritual level. Krishna is seated in the heart as the Paramatma, right? And he is the essence of all the Vedas. Okay. Now, next section is we have done HOM. What is the last acronym left? E. What is E? Stands for essence. What is the essence of the Vedas? Right? HOME. Essence of the Vedas. So essence of the Vedas. So in 16, 17, 18, 3 verses Krishna is telling the essence of the entire Vedas. Right? So that is a section in the 8th chapter, which is known as Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. 10.8, 10.9, 10.10, and 10.11. These 4 verses give the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Now again in 15th chapter, 3 verses, also known as 3 Shloki Bhagavad Gita. Right? 3 Shloki Bhagavad Gita gives the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So what are the 3 verses? 16, 17, 18. So first in 16, Krishna says that there are 2 classes of living beings. One is the fallible and other is the infallible. What do you mean by fallible? Those living entities who do not follow the instructions of Krishna, who turn away from Krishna, they are the fallible ones. Who are the infallible ones? Who actually already are in the spiritual world. Those who live in the spiritual world, they never turn away from Krishna. So they are always in the spiritual world, always in relationship with Krishna, and hence they are infallible. Right? So and then Krishna says that every living entity in the material world is fallible and everyone in the spiritual world is infallible. Right? Does everyone understand this point? Because once in the spiritual world, right, we are always with Krishna, we are engaging devotional service with Krishna, we are serving Krishna, then we are infallible. Right? But in this material world, it's only because we turn away from Krishna. We say, why Krishna? Why do I have to worship you? Why should not everyone worship me? And then we say, I want to be the center. And Krishna says, okay, come to the material world. So we are fallible living entities. Right? Now, in 17th verse, it says, beyond the fallible and the infallible living entities, who is there? It is the Paramatma, the super soul, because the super soul is just like the material world is compared to a prison house. Right? If a material world is compared to the prison house. In the prison house, sometimes the king may actually come and see, oh, who are the prisoners? What are they doing? How can they be transformed so that they become good citizens? But does that king actually become subject to the laws of the prison house? No. The king is above that. He's just come to visit, to actually help the people here. So similarly, the spiritual, the super soul is actually non-different from Krishna himself. And Krishna appears in this material world to actually give us the knowledge so that we can actually come back to him. Right? So that is the super soul. So superior to the Shara and Akshara, the fallible and the infallible, is actually the greatest personality. He is known as Paramatma, the supreme soul, and he is actually maintaining all the worlds. That is Krishna maintaining all the three worlds, right? And then what is the last verse of this Chatushloki? Then Krishna is saying, Yasma Sharam Atitoham Aksharat Apichotama. Because I, Krishna is clearly saying, I am transcendental, I am superior to both fallible and infallible, I am actually the greatest. Hence, Krishna is saying, I am actually celebrated both in this world and in the Vedas as Purushottama. The greatest supreme personality of Godhead is who? Krishna himself. And hence, all the living entities, the Shara and the Akshara, right? So the fallible living entities should worship that Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. And by that, they can actually enter into the spiritual world. So in 3 verses, Krishna has given the entire summary of the Vedas. First verse is telling what? That there are some living entities who have fallen into this material world. Other living entities are always in the spiritual world. Right? Then Krishna says, beyond both the fallible and the infallible is the supreme personality of God, the Paramatma. Right? And Krishna is concluding by saying, hence, because I am transcendental, Krishna is saying, I am transcendental, I am the greatest. Hence, everyone should actually worship Krishna. And by worshipping Krishna, then we can qualify to enter into the spiritual world. Okay, so that is this 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which we did with an acronym HOME. Right? So, and maybe you can type it in the chat. What is HOME? What does 4 acronyms stand for? And we'll see if there are any questions on this. And thus we'll proceed to the next chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Radhika and Rasika, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question and a comment.
Okay.
So my question is, you said you shouldn't have like the illusion to get out of this material world and go to the spiritual world. You said you shouldn't have illusion, but how do you get rid of the illusion?
Yes, very nice question. How do you get free of the illusion? By actually studying the Bhagavad Gita and following the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. Why is Krishna giving us this Bhagavad Gita? So that we can rise above the illusion and we can actually engage in the activities that Krishna is actually telling in the Bhagavad Gita. That means we have to engage in devotional service to Krishna.
Vrindavan, is it the spiritual world?
Yes, so Vrindavan here which is actually here in this material world is actually a part of the spiritual world. But going to Vrindavan is not physically just buying a ticket to go to Vrindavan. So I may say I'll buy a ticket, go to Delhi, and then from there I'll take the bus, and then I'll take a taxi, I'll go to Vrindavan. That is not how you go to Vrindavan. You will go to Vrindavan by purifying your heart. Vrindavan is actually what is your consciousness. If your consciousness is pure, you're in your consciousness, you're always thinking about Krishna, you're engaging your entire life in service to Krishna, then you're already in Vrindavan. Even though you may be here in Greensboro or Cary or wherever. Right? Vrindavan is your state of your mind. Right? So if you're purifying, you're serving Krishna, then you're already in Vrindavan.
I'm in Greensboro.
Physically you're there, but where is your heart? Right? So that's our state of Vrindavan. That doesn't mean that we don't go to the Vrindavan here, because Vrindavan is a manifestation of the spiritual world here. So we go to Vrindavan and we get purified, in Vrindavan. We hear from Vaishnavas in Vrindavan, and then by that we actually get purified and we become qualified more and more to actually enter into Vrindavan. Advait Chandra, what is your question? Main lesson of chapter 15 is what is the difference between the material world and the spiritual world? How can you actually have the journey from the material to the spiritual world, right? And then even in this material world, how Krishna is actually maintaining all of us and how he is the Purushottam, right? The highest of all beings. And the essence of the 15th chapter is to engage in devotional service. This chapter is titled Purushottama Yoga. Yoga means what? Engaging in connection to that person, Purushottama. So devotional service to Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of God. And why is Krishna known as Purushottama? It actually explained. There is the Shara and the Akshara, but beyond that, there is a Paramatma. And Krishna is saying, I am actually the Paramatma. I am transcendental. I am actually maintaining this entire material and the spiritual world. Okay. Anything else? Navneet, you have a question? I cannot hear you, Navneet. You're on mute.
Well, somebody already asked my question, so.
Okay, so now everyone, so we'll move on to 16th chapter, right? Okay, everyone is okay? Moving on to 16. Okay, so 16th chapter is more easier. So 16th chapter is titled The Divine and the Demoniac Natures. Right? So what are the 4 ages that we know of? Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Right? So it is said that in Satya Yuga, the divine, right, and the demoniac, demons, are actually on different planets. Who can give an example? Okay, I will tell the entire sequence and you can think of examples for each one, right? Or Hiranyaksha, okay? So first one, in the Satya Yuga, the demons and the divine personalities, they are actually on different planets. Now, in the next Yuga, the demons and the divines are actually on the same planet but in different countries. Like who? Lord Ramchandra and Ravan, right? Different countries. Now, in the third Yuga, is when the divine and the demons are in the same family. What is the example for that? The Pandavas and the Kauravas. But then in Kali Yuga, it is said that both the divine and the demonic qualities are in the heart of every living entity. In our heart, there is both divine qualities and there is actually demoniac qualities. Both are seated right in the heart of every living entity. So Krishna actually talks about what does it mean to be a demon? It's not that a demon, like sometimes maybe you have seen like Mahabharata or Ramayana on TV, right? And sometimes they show demons like one eye and brown, big hair and ugly looking. That is not necessarily a demon. That may be a demon, but the demoniac quality is actually in the heart of every living entity. Okay. So now let us see. So 16th chapter, we are going to study with the acronym DOGS. DOGS. Okay, dogs. Okay. And why dogs? Because dogs, they are friendly, they are nice, but sometimes they have some demoniac qualities, and all of a sudden, everything they'll be nice, loving you, and all of a sudden, they may attack you. Right? So dogs, they have both demoniac and divine qualities. Divine in the sense like they are faithful to the to the master and so on. Right? Now let's study what are the qualities of the divine and the demoniac. Right? Okay, let me share my screen. We'll see what are the qualities of the divine and the demoniac. So can you already guess some qualities of the divine on the chat? What are some good qualities you can think about? Before I show, think about some nice qualities. Devoted, okay. Fearlessness, cleanliness, humility, very nice. Helpful, okay. Charity, very nice. Truthfulness, kindness, wonderful. Mercy, non-violence, self-control, Very nice. I'm so happy. Krishna actually lists 26 good qualities in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so let's quickly see those qualities. So here. So here, from text 1, 2, and 3 of the 16th chapter is talking about these qualities. So in our acronym DOGS, D stands for divine or demoniac. Right? So someone can type that in. D stands for divine or demoniac. Right? So we'll study both the qualities. So divine, someone already put on the chat, abhayam, fearlessness, right? Then purity of consciousness, cultivating spiritual knowledge. So now all of you here, you have divine qualities. Why? Because you're joining the Zoom call every day to actually cultivate spiritual knowledge. So you all have divine qualities, right? Then charity, self-control, sacrifice, Vedic study, then simplicity, being straightforward, right? Krishna says we should be simple in our mind and in our dealings, right? Simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, not lying for our personal self-interest, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, that means peaceful, equipoise, aversion to fault finding. So, this is a habit, especially in Kali Yuga. It is very easy to find faults in other people. But one should actually have that aversion to fault finding. One should always see what is the good quality do I see in the other person. Don't look for faults, but look for good qualities, because that will inspire you to develop good qualities. Okay. Then compassion for all living entities, right? Freedom from covetousness, right? Gentleness, modesty, then vigor, right? Forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, internal and external, freedom from envy, and freedom from the passion for honor, respecting others, right? So these qualities, so 26 qualities Krishna has given here in the first 3 verses. Okay, so I want everyone to just look at these qualities and please type in one quality that you would like to develop, because Bhagavad Gita, we are trying to develop good qualities. So think about one of these qualities that you would like to develop, and you can type that in the chat. Okay, so this is the first 8 qualities. These are the next up to 21. Aversion to fault finding. Advait Chandra would like to cultivate that. Very nice. Again, aversion to fault finding. Very nice. Purity of consciousness. Yes. By studying Bhagavad Gita, associating with devotees, we develop purity of consciousness. Freedom from anger, non-violence. Right? Then quality number 20, steady determination. That's very nice. To be determined in our material duties and in our spiritual activities. Freedom from envy, right? Cleanliness, forgiveness, very nice. So these are the qualities. Now we'll switch channel, and maybe you can write something about the qualities of demons. What are the qualities of demons you can think about? Anger, okay. Greedy, nice. Lust, pride, false ego, fault finding, envy, violence, enviousness, and so on. Right? So Krishna here gives a list. So he says, Dambo, Darpo, Abhimanascha, Krodha, Parisham, Evacha, Agyanam, Chabijatasya, Partha, Sampadam, Asurim. Asura means demon. What are 6 qualities Krishna has given? Pride, arrogance, conceit. Conceit means desire to be worshipped by others. Anger, harshness, ignorance, lack of discrimination. These are 6 qualities of the asuras that Krishna has given, right? So why is Krishna giving this? Even in the another chapter before this, Krishna has given an entire list of good qualities. Which is that chapter? Does anyone remember? Which chapter previously does Krishna actually give an entire list of good qualities? In the 13th chapter, text 8 through 12. Right? So these are 2 places in the Gita where you have like a whole list of qualities. So one is 13th chapter, text 8 through 12, and then 16th chapter, text 1, 2, and 3. Right? And why is Krishna giving all these good qualities? so that we can meditate on these qualities, and then we can actually cultivate these good qualities in our character. Why are we studying Bhagavad Gita? I mentioned this last time also. It's not that our goal is like in 45 minutes I can say the entire Gita. Our goal is to actually live the Bhagavad Gita even for 45 minutes. We want to live the Gita, and we live the Gita by developing these qualities of the divine, right? And we have to get free from these qualities of the demonic, right? So where are we? We did D, right? So D stands for divine or demonic. O stands for what is the outlook of the demons? How do the demons actually look at the world, right? So that is our next section. So you can write O in the DOGS acronym. O stands for the outlook of the demons, right? So what is the outlook of the demons? So Krishna talks more about that. That demons, they have no discrimination. They do not know what is right and what is wrong, right? They will do wrong things and say, no, this is right, right? So they do not know what is right, what is wrong. They do not have cleanliness. They do not have good behavior, no truthfulness, right? And they actually say, oh, there is no God in control. They are atheistic, right? And they say this world is false. It has no foundation, right? And it is produced for sex desire. The only reason this world is so we can gratify our senses. And then what do? They engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. They'll create like nuclear bombs just meant to destroy the world. That is the outlook of demons. And further, Krishna says they actually take shelter of insatiable thirst for enjoyment, their illusion. They always do unclean activities, right? And then what is the thinking outlook of the demons? Here, Krishna says, I gained this much wealth today, I will gain more as per my desires. I kill this enemy, I will kill that enemy also. I am the Lord, I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, I am powerful, I am happy, I am the richest, no one is powerful than me. These are the qualities, the outlook of the demons. Okay, so O stands for outlook. What does G stand for? Okay. So further, Krishna talks about more how these demoniac, they are like self-complacent, they're impudent, right? They do not follow any scriptures. Right? Now we'll come to the G. What does G stand for? Gates to hell. Okay. So D stands for demon or demoniac or divine qualities. O stands for the outlook of the demons, and G stands for the gates to hell. What are the three gates to hell? Krishna actually says in text number 21, he says, who knows this? What are the three gates to hell? Yes, lust, anger, and greed. So in text 21, he says, three vidam, three means three. There are three gates leading to hell that actually causes the degradation of our consciousness. What are they? Kama, Krodha, Tatha, Lobha. Tatha means and, right? So Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. You can write the Sanskrit also. It's nice to memorize. So Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. So these three, lust, anger, and greed, right? These are actually gateways of hell. And Krishna actually says that every tasmat etat trayam tyajit, every intelligent person should give them up, because these will simply cause degradation of your soul. These three, if you focus on lust, anger, and greed, then you are just focused on the demoniac qualities, and that will just take you to hell. But we want to, what do we want to do? Why are we here in this material world? Because we want to transform the qualities from demoniac to divine, and hence we should give up these three things, right? So G stands for a gateway to hell. Now, what is the last one? S, right? So now Krishna will say, okay, Krishna has given us qualities of divine, qualities of demoniac, and one will say, yes, I know I should cultivate the qualities of the divine, but how am I going to do it? What is the process I'm going to follow? And Krishna concludes this chapter by saying S. S stands for what? Scriptures. And Krishna is saying the entire Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam is given to us so that by studying the knowledge, by living the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we can transform our consciousness from the demoniac to the divine. Right? So last, if you see this 23 and 24, Krishna is saying one who discards, one who gives up the scriptures and he acts according to his own whims. Oh, I know what is right. I don't need the Gita. Then for him, Krishna says, Na sa siddhim apnoti, na sukham na param gatim. For him, there's neither perfection, nor happiness, nor liberation. One who ignores the scriptures, who disregards the scriptures, says, I don't care for the Gita, I know everything. For that people, for those kind of people, neither perfection, nor happiness, nor liberation. Okay? And hence Krishna says, therefore, we should actually follow the scriptures and one should understand what is right, what is wrong, what decisions when I make in my life will actually really be helpful for my life, and what decisions are going to degrade me. Right? And one who knows the scriptures, then he will gradually be elevated. Okay? One should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So let's summarize chapter 16. We discussed with the qualities of the divine and the demoniac. We started off by saying that how actually demoniac qualities are in each one of us. Can any of you relate with any of the demoniac qualities in your heart? Does anyone have a little pride? Does anyone get angry? If we have, and if we are truthful to ourselves, we have these qualities. But we are actually trying to drive away these qualities and develop the divine qualities. So we are all on a journey. And as we are progressing, as we are growing through life, we should actually develop these divine qualities. And to know what are the divine qualities, Krishna has given us 2 specific lists in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text 8 through 12, and Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, text 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so next time anyone asks you, why are you studying the Gita? You can say, here, I'm trying to develop these qualities. Right? 13th chapter, text 8 through 12, 16th chapter, text 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and Krishna concludes by saying that if you ignore, these scriptures are given for our own benefit. Bhagavad Gita is actually telling you how we can live a life in such a way that we can be the best version of ourselves. The best version of us. Right now, because of lust, anger, greed, and all, it is, we have some qualities, but all those qualities are suppressed. But we want to suppress the bad qualities and bring out the best version of ourselves. And then we live a life in such a way that we can actually go back to our real home. We don't make this hotel like a permanent place, but we want to go back to our real home. Okay. So in essence, the material world is a place where there's exploitation, there's mistreatment, but the spiritual world is a place where there is cooperation, respect, and genuine concern. Right? I'll tell you one story, and sometimes the Christians use this story. They say, there was a group of people and they went to the saint and said like, oh, can you show us what is a hell? And then immediately he just did something, like did his hand like this, and all of a sudden there's a vision, right? And there was a table, and then so many chairs, and people were sitting, and in front of them, everyone had a nice plate of food. And the people were thinking, this is hell? Nice plate of food in front of them. And they have nice dining table to sit on. But in hell, what was it? The people had arms in such a way that the arms were really long, right? If you don't have this, this part of our hand, and if you just have a long hand, how can you take the food and put it in your mouth? You cannot do it. So in hell, food was there, but people didn't have access to eat those food. And then they said, okay, show us heaven. And then again, the saint just said, shh. And all of a sudden, there was this whole picture. And again, it was very similar. There was the whole dining table. There were plates in front of everyone. And their hands also were same. They couldn't bend their hand. It was just straight like this. And he was wondering, same heaven, hell? They look so similar. But in heaven, the main difference was people were sitting in a line, and because they could not feed themselves, they were taking their food and they were feeding the person next to them. And in that way, everyone was happy in heaven. And so this is just a more, it is not like a figurative story, like this is what is happening. It is just making the point that the spiritual world is a place where there is cooperation, genuine respect, care for each other. Like how many of you are here in the call? So let's see, there are 13 of us, right, on this call. Now, if you are living a life of selfishness, where you're saying, no, it is only me, I just want to focus on me, then how many people do you have taking care of yourself? It's only you, right? But now, if we develop that mood of cooperation and care for every other person, so on this call, if everyone develops that mood, the divine quality, and thinks about how can I serve the others on this call, then for each one of us, how many people are there to take care of us? There are 12 other people to take care of us. Can you imagine? That just in this small group of 13 people, you have 12 people who care for you, who love you, who are there to protect you, take care of you in every situation. That is the nature of the spiritual world. We want to develop that culture of respect and care for each other, service for all the Vaishnavas. Then in any community, there'll be so many people looking after you, helping you in your spiritual journey. But if you're just focused on, oh, no, only me, then you're the only person who's there for yourself. So if you change from the material, so both 15th chapter is telling us material world, go to the spiritual world. 16th chapter is telling what are the qualities that keep you in the material world, what are the qualities will give you entrance in the spiritual world. Right? So even now, let's develop that nature of care for every other person. Instead of focusing so much on what will make me happy, let's try to live a life where we can say, how can I serve others? And that quality is the main quality that will help us, enter into the spiritual world. So someone can type it. We want to change ourselves from selfish enjoyment, right? So please type in selfish enjoyment to selfless service. Selfish enjoyment to selfless service. So this is the essence of both 15th and the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that we, if you are selfish, you just focus on selfish enjoyment, you stay in the material world. If you develop your selfless service, and finally the selfless service comes through devotion to Lord Shri Krishna, then you become qualified to enter into the spiritual world. Okay, so that is chapter number 15 and 16. We have covered it through two acronyms, home and dogs. Okay, so I hope the two chapters, the overview is okay for all of you. Okay, are there any final comments, questions? Okay, so if there are no comments or questions, I would request all of you that just think about all the points you heard today and type in one point that you like from this entire two chapters that you want to make it a point that you want to cultivate, the point that you want to remember. If after this call your parents ask you, what did you hear in this call? What is that one point you will tell them? So everyone please type in something on the chat. Okay, dogs and home, working on developing good qualities. Very nice. Who else? Analogies. Okay, the which analogy? The reflection. Is that what you're talking about?
Like hotel and home.
Okay, hotel and home. Very nice, Divyansh. Okay, give up illusion. Home and hotel. Nice. Surrender to Krishna. We are searching for reality in a reflection. Yes, very nice point. We are looking for happiness, but we are looking in an image of pizza and ice cream. But there's no happiness there. Right? The stories, very nice. Developing divine qualities. Okay, wonderful. So nice. Thank you so much for your enthusiastic participation and just seeing all how your messages are coming in. I just feel so inspired that you are absorbing this knowledge so nicely. Right. So the contest is this Sunday. Oh, this Saturday, and this Saturday is the contest is just 50 multiple choice questions, and Vikasana Prabhu will give more details on the chat. So on the WhatsApp group, he'll post all the details of when to come and what you need to bring, and all the details will be there. Okay, and I request, I hope everyone has registered for this, and yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
But Pranam.
Yeah.
We got an email saying the contest has been postponed. So
Oh, really? Oh, that's good.
yeah, it's postponed to November 18th.
Oh, November 18th. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu. I too. Yeah, I too.
Yes,
saw that.
Prabhuji.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, okay. Okay, so November 18th. So you have a lot of time. We'll complete our course and then we can do a more quick overview, or if you have questions or some particular sections of Gita you want more.
They said there's time for
Okay. Okay, thank you all so much.
Prabhuji. The mail.
What's that, Navneet?
In the mail, it also said that they're going to revise it like 3 times.
Okay. And we will have more revisions for all of you. So we will organize one more revision session. Okay. So we will do the same classes, what they are conducting, but we'll do it through what we have learned, how we understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, as Srila Prabhupada has taught us, coming down in the Parampara. It is actually the most authentic knowledge that is coming down through tradition. So we'll focus on this translation. Okay. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna.
teaching us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, Krishna.